Welcome to Business Connection. I'm Liz Spencer. We have wonderful guests in studio today. It's Jessica Crowley, and she's the owner of Aspire Winning Edge, and alongside her is Monet Welton, and she's a gymnast. Tell me how you developed Aspire Winning Edge.
It was developed because I was a parent of a child athlete, and I wasn't doing so well. I think I was doing more harm than good as a parent. I'm a former athlete from high school, and I missed an opportunity to get a scholarship. Not because I wasn't good enough at my sport. As a matter of fact, statistically, I was spot on for a scholarship.
Wow.
What prevented me was I was showing up with the wrong type of energy.
Okay.
Played too aggressively, and nobody really pulled me aside and said, hey, what's behind that? Okay. And as I became a parent of a child athlete, I realized that I was coaching my child and not being real supportive and doing more harm than good. And so I took both of those facets of being an athlete and playing too aggressively with not necessarily being a supportive parent, and went to performance coaching school and became a hypnotist and began working with gymnasts. But when I was working with the gymnasts, I found that there's a component missing. A component where when the gymnast would get injured and would hold on to trauma, the hypnosis and the performance coaching wasn't helping them get past that freeze response that often happens when they experience an injury. And so I discovered Brainspotting. And as part of my business, I began to build not just performance coaching and hypnosis, but I incorporated Brainspotting, which is a really unique modality in that it helps process out trauma, where we store it in our amygdala, that fight, flight, and freeze response, and it deactivates it. So all of those, like, I have a mental block, the kids or parents saying, hey, my athlete has a mental block. It's not a mental block at all. As a matter of fact, it's the body's natural response to keeping the athlete safe. And I have the Brainspotting that allows us to process through that and get the athlete back to where they want to be a little bit faster than typical talk sports psychology. And I then incorporated Heartmath along with it. So that's what my business model is working with the athlete to take them from where they are to where they want to be by strengthening their performance and working with all of those modalities.
Wow. Well, I think you really have put your finger on the pulse of something really new. Monet, tell me a little bit about how Mrs. Crowley helped you.
At one of my competitions, I had an accident on bars, and this caused me to freeze during that skill, and it started to affect all my other skills. So I went to Mrs. Crowley to push past this freeze response I was doing and ensure I could compete.
That's awesome. Now, she's a really good athlete. Tell me what level she's at.
Yes, so when we started working, it was right around her beginning level 8, but this happened right during her level 9, which is an extraordinary level. That switch from 7 to 8 and even 8 to 9, it's very high risk. And a lot of times the gymnasts, whenever they have an injury, it really sets them back, not just on that skill, but in a lot of those skills, because that what if response starts to become more prevalent. What if I fall? What if I get hurt again? And so when Monet was competing on bars and she had this fall in this accident on bars, she truly experienced that response.
Monet, tell me a little bit about what you think about now when you're on those bars to push through that fear. How did Mrs. Crowley really help you with that?
Well, she gave me tools I could use when I was going into my skills, like to relax my body, breathing normally, and when I am doing my skills, she gave me that focus on what I am doing and not like focusing on the outcome or that what if and that I can't do it. So she changed my mindset.
That's awesome. It sounds like you changed her mindset, but you changed her attitude, and attitude's important to you. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. You know, athletes, they go out and they want to be the best that they can, and oftentimes they aren't given the tools and the skills to be able to show up the way they want to be able to do those skills. And working with athletes, it's just great to normalize what it is that they're going through. Oftentimes they think that they have a problem or they're not good enough. And it's kind of reframing what's going on. It's normalizing it and teaching them about their neurobiology and why what's happening is happening, and giving them those tools that they can use to really strengthen their performance the way that they need. and to use it not just as an athlete but as a person, because they're not just an athlete. This helps in school and in life and in gymnastics as well.
Monet, do you notice that this attitude, this new attitude, helps you at school, and that you are feeling better than you thought you could?
Yes, now going into anything, I have a more confident and just open-minded attitude.
Well, I like the way you said open-minded, because I think sometimes when change happens, we automatically think it's negative, but you think that's a great way to use that energy.
Absolutely. You know, the negative energy that we often show up with, it can be a benefit in certain sports. We need that, and depending on the sport. And when I work with teams, depending on whether it's a soccer team, whether it's a football team, that negativity, that can fuel us to some extent. It really depends on the sport. And in the case of gymnastics, it's really getting down to the basics and getting to the end cause, the bottom underlying cause of what's there. And we do that through the brain spotting and processing that neurophysiology out. And then we add components to it so that they can choose what energy is best for them when they show up. So negative energy might not fuel a gymnast, but for some gymnasts that might be exactly what gets them motivated. And so it all depends on the athlete, and it depends on the sport they're playing. And that's what I really, really help work with athletes on, is what energy is the right amount for you and for your sport.
And that brings me to my next question: is if an athlete is listening right now and thinking, oh my gosh, my performance is here and I'm doing everything physical, but now I need to work with my mental game, what's their next step to get connected with you?
So they can visit me on my website at www.aspirewinning-edge.com. They can email me or they can call me. I do free consultations.
Okay.
I do half-an-hour consultations to educate. And building rapport, athletes have to want to strengthen their performance. Oftentimes parents will call me and they want to make the appointment for their child, and that oftentimes, if the child's not open to it, I really divert to the child. It's all about advocating for the athlete. If the parent wants it and the child doesn't, I won't accept them. I really, it's that rapport and it's that trust. And it's that half-an-hour consultation with that athlete that allows them to experience what I do and how I do it. And oftentimes we play games and we use tools and techniques so that they can see how powerful their mind really is. And it's fascinating and they love it. They have a great time. I do it in seminars and when I work gymnastic meets as a vendor. And they think it's hilarious, but there's application to all of it. There's learning behind it. And so that consultation is really important, and they can just call me at 1-844-GET-ALL-1.
Jessica, what do you think athletes don't understand about your business?
Athletes oftentimes don't want to reach out because of the fear of stigma, that they have an issue or something is wrong. And what I promote with my business is that it's not about coming to me because something's wrong or because you have an issue or that perceived, quote, mental block. It's because you want to get better at something. You want to strengthen your performance. And that really changes that thought process of destigmatizing the need of getting help, whether it's from any type of professional, whether it's a sports psychologist, whether it's a mental coach, or whether it's coming to me, where I really, my focus is always on, you're coming here to not just strengthen your physical skills in a sport, but because you want to strengthen all areas of your sport and really capitalize on every component of your athleticism.
And that really includes the mind. The mind is probably the biggest and best tool you got, and you help bring that out.
The mind is the body's coach, is what I tell the athletes. It's your biggest coach.
That's awesome. Thank you for what you do and what you're doing. You're making a big difference in our sports and our young athletes. Thanks for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Really appreciate that. We're going to be back with more Business Connection. Stay tuned.